We went to couples counseling, not because we had problems, but because we wanted to learn how to communicate better, how to handle conflict in healthy ways. "You're doing it right this time," the counselor told me, "building a foundation based on trust and communication instead of just passion and hope." 2 years into our relationship, I proposed. Not with a grand gesture, just a quiet moment in our apartment. "I love you," I said, "and I want to build a life with you. But I need you to understand, I'm going to be cautious. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to verify things. Not because I don't trust you, but because I learned the hard way what happens when you trust blindly." "I know," Caroline said, "and I don't blame you. Ask your questions. Verify what you need to. As long as you're honest about why you're doing it, we'll be okay." So is that a yes? That's a yes. We got married at City Hall with just our families present. No big ceremony, no performance. Just two people making promises we intended to keep. My mother cried, but they were happy tears this time. "You found it," she said. "The real thing." I did. Finally. 3 years after my divorce from Claire, I was sitting in my office at the hospital when I got an unexpected call. "Thomas Brennan?" "Speaking. This is Warren Hayes. We met during your divorce proceedings. Claire's lawyer." I tensed immediately. "What can I do for you, Mr. Hayes?" "First, I want to apologize for how I approached your case back then. I should have looked more carefully at the evidence before defending my client so aggressively. You were telling the truth, and I made your life harder by not acknowledging that." "Okay. I appreciate that, but I'm guessing you didn't call just to apologize." "You're right. I'm calling because I have a case that reminded me of yours. A man whose wife is trying to pass off another man's child as his. He's gathering evidence, doing everything right, but he's scared. He asked if I knew anyone who'd been through something similar. Someone who could talk to him, tell him it gets better. You want me to talk to a stranger about my divorce? I know it's a lot to ask. But Thomas, you handled your situation with grace and intelligence. You didn't let anger make you stupid. You documented everything, protected yourself, and came out the other side intact. This guy needs to hear that it's possible." I thought about it. Did I really want to relive that painful chapter of my life for a stranger? But then I remembered how alone I'd felt. How I'd wished there was someone who could tell me I wasn't crazy, that I was doing the right thing, that it would be okay eventually. "Give him my number," I said. "Tell him he can call me." 2 days later, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Dr. Brennan? This is Nathan Foster. Warren Hayes gave me your number." "Hi, Nathan. Call me Thomas. Warren said you're going through something similar to what I experienced." "Yeah. My wife, I think she's been cheating. And she just told me she's pregnant. But the timing doesn't work. I've been documenting everything, but I feel like I'm going crazy. Like maybe I'm seeing things that aren't there. Are you seeing things that aren't there?" "No, I don't think so. I have texts, hotel receipts, credit card statements, but she's so convinced the baby is mine that I start doubting myself." "Let me tell you something," I said. "People who are lying often believe their own lies. It's easier than facing the truth. Your wife might genuinely believe the baby is yours because the alternative is too painful to accept. That's what my lawyer said. Your lawyer is right. Trust your evidence. Trust what you can prove. And protect yourself because no one else is going to do it for you." We talked for over an hour. I shared my story. All of it, including the parts that still hurt to talk about. How alone I'd felt. How I'd questioned my own sanity. How the evidence had saved me. "Thank you," Nathan said when we were finishing up. "You have no idea how much this helps. Just knowing someone else survived this and came out okay. I'm more than okay. I'm happy now. Remarried to someone who's honest and kind and treats me like an equal. You'll get there too. It just takes time." After we hung up, I sat in my office thinking about how far I'd come. 3 years ago, I'd been broken, angry, scared. Now I was solid, confident, genuinely happy. Claire had tried to destroy me. Instead, she'd taught me what I wouldn't tolerate, what I deserved, who I really was when all the pretending fell away. That was worth something. Caroline and I had been married for a year when she brought up the idea of kids. "I'm 35, she said. "If we're going to have children, we need to start thinking about it soon." The topic made me tense immediately. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Because of what happened with Claire? Partly. I thought I was going to be a father, and then I wasn't. The idea of going through that again, of investing emotionally in a child, it scares me. Caroline took my hand. "I understand that. But Thomas, this would be different. This would be our child. No lies, no questions about paternity. Just you and me, creating a family together. What if I'm no good at it? What if Claire was right, and I really would be a terrible father? Claire wasn't right. She was trying to hurt you. You're thoughtful, patient, caring. You'd be an amazing father. You really think so?" "I know so." We talked about it for months, went to counseling to discuss our fears and expectations, made sure we were on the same page about everything: discipline, finances, division of labor. Finally, I said yes. Caroline got pregnant on our third try. When she told me, I felt a wave of emotions: joy, terror, excitement, fear, all of it tangled together. "This is real," I said, looking at the positive pregnancy test. "This is real," Caroline agreed. "Are you okay?" "I'm terrified, but also happier than I've been in a long time." The pregnancy was smooth. We found out we were having a boy, painted the nursery, bought furniture, read parenting books. My parents were over the moon. "I can't believe I'm going to be a grandmother," my mother said, crying happy tears for what felt like the 100th time. 8 months into the pregnancy, I ran into Kyle. He was at the hospital. His daughter had a minor fever, and he'd brought her to the emergency room to be safe. "Thomas," he said, spotting me in the hallway. "I didn't know you worked here." "I do." "How are you?" "Good. Tired, but good. Parenting is no joke." "So I'm learning. My wife is pregnant. Congratulations. That's great. Really great." We stood there awkwardly. Then Kyle said, "I owe you an apology, a real one. What I did was unforgivable. I betrayed your friendship, helped destroy your marriage. I think about it all the time. Have you been to therapy?" "Yeah. For 2 years now. Working through my issues, trying to be better. That's good. Your daughter deserves a father who's working on himself. She does. Claire and I are actually getting along now, co-parenting peacefully. It took a while, but we figured it out. I'm glad. For your daughter's sake." Kyle hesitated, then said, "For what it's worth, Claire talks about you sometimes. Says you were the best thing that ever happened to her and she ruined it. She has a lot of regrets. We all have regrets. The question is, what we do with them." "That's true. Well, I should get back to my daughter. But Thomas, I'm really glad you found happiness. You deserve it." After he left, I thought about what he'd said. Claire had regrets. Good. She should. But her regrets weren't my problem anymore. I'd forgiven her, not for her sake, but for mine, and then I'd moved on. That was the healthiest thing I'd ever done. Our son, James, was born on a Tuesday morning in March. He came into the world screaming, healthy and perfect. When they placed him in my arms, I felt something click into place. A sense of completeness I hadn't known I was missing. "Hey, buddy," I whispered to him, "I'm your dad. And I promise you, I'm going to be the best father I can be. You'll always know where you stand with me. I'll always tell you the truth. And I'll always, always choose you." Caroline smiled at us from the hospital bed, exhausted but radiant. He's perfect. He really is. Being a father was harder than I'd imagined. The sleepless nights, the constant worry, the feeling that I was responsible for this tiny human's entire existence. But it was also the most rewarding thing I'd ever done. Watching James grow, first smile, first laugh, first steps, felt like watching a miracle unfold in slow motion. "You're a natural," Caroline said one night, watching me rock James to sleep. "I'm terrified every minute of every day that I'm doing something wrong. That means you're doing it right. It's the parents who think they have all the answers who usually mess up." James was 6 months old when I got another call from Warren Hayes. The man I connected you with, Nathan Foster, wanted me to tell you thank you. His divorce is finalized. Paternity test proved the baby wasn't his. He said your advice helped him get through it. I'm glad I could help. Would you be willing to do it again? I have other clients in similar situations, men who need to hear from someone who's been there and survived. I thought about it. Then, yes. Give them my number. I'll talk to anyone who needs it. Over the next 2 years, I spoke with dozens of men going through divorces similar to mine. Each conversation reminded me how far I'd come, how much I'd healed, how much stronger I was than I'd been in that conference room listening to Claire call me a terrible father. Some of the men I spoke with were angry, wanting revenge. I told them what I'd learned. Revenge was satisfying in the moment but empty in the long run. Justice was better. Protection was better. Moving on was better. Don't let anger make you stupid, I'd tell them. Document everything, protect yourself legally, and then let the courts handle it. Your job is to survive this and build something better on the other side. Some listened, some didn't. But I kept offering the same advice, hoping it would stick with someone who needed it. James was 2 when Caroline got pregnant again. A girl this time. We named her Rose, after Caroline's grandmother. Our family feels complete now, Caroline said, holding Rose while James played at our feet. It does. Finally. I thought about alternate timelines sometimes. What if Claire had been honest from the beginning? What if we'd gone to counseling, worked through our problems, stayed married? Would I have been happy? No, I didn't think so. Because Claire and I had been fundamentally incompatible. We'd wanted different things, valued different qualities, approached life in different ways. The marriage would have failed eventually, even without the affair. But I was grateful for the lesson. Grateful for learning what I wouldn't tolerate, what I deserved, who I wanted to be. Claire had tried to break me. Instead, she'd taught me how strong I really was. 5 years after my divorce, I was invited to speak at a medical conference about physician wellness and resilience. The organizers wanted me to talk about overcoming personal crises while maintaining professional standards. I almost said no. Talking about my divorce publicly in front of colleagues felt too vulnerable, but Caroline encouraged me. Your story might help someone, she said, and you're good at talking about difficult things without falling apart. It's a gift. So I agreed. The conference was in San Diego. I flew out alone. Caroline was home with the kids. Standing backstage before my presentation, I felt nervous in a way I hadn't in years. But when I walked out and saw the audience, 200 physicians, all of them looking tired and stressed, I realized why I was there. These were my people. They understood the pressure of our profession, the weight of responsibility we carried. My name is Thomas Brennan, I began. I'm a cardiologist, a husband, a father. And 5 years ago, I went through a divorce that nearly destroyed me. I told them the story. Not all the details, that wasn't necessary, but the broad strokes. The betrayal, the lies, the moment in mediation when my wife claimed I'd be a terrible father, the careful documentation, the legal battle, the eventual vindication. And then I told them about the aftermath, the healing, the self-discovery, the rebuilding. The thing about betrayal, I said, is that it teaches you what you're made of. You can let it break you, or you can let it show you how strong you really are. I chose strength. And yeah, it was hard. There were days I wanted to give up, wanted to believe the lies my wife told about me, wanted to accept that I was everything she said I was. But I didn't. I chose to believe in my own worth instead. After the presentation, dozens of people came up to talk to me. Some shared their own stories of divorce or betrayal. Others thanked me for being honest about struggle. One woman, a surgeon in her 50s, said, "I stayed in an abusive marriage for 15 years because I thought leaving would make me a failure. Your story reminded me that staying was the real failure." Thank you. You're welcome. And you're not a failure, you're a survivor. Flying home, I thought about how strange life was. 5 years ago, I'd been sitting in a conference room listening to Claire destroy my character, feeling powerless and alone. Now I was standing in front of hundreds of people, telling that story as an example of resilience. Claire hadn't won. She'd lost everything. Her marriage, her credibility, her sense of self. Last I'd heard, she was working as a receptionist at a dental office, struggling to make ends meet, sharing custody with Kyle, who'd moved on and remarried. I'd won. Not because I'd destroyed her, I hadn't, but because I'd built something better from the ruins she'd left behind. James was starting kindergarten when we got an unexpected visitor. My mother called one morning, sounding strange. "Thomas? Claire is here, at my house. She wants to talk to you." My stomach dropped. "What? Why?" "I don't know. She just showed up, saying it's important, that she needs to apologize properly. Should I send her away?" "No, I'll come over. Give me 20 minutes. Caroline looked concerned when I told her. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No. This is something I need to do alone. But keep your phone close, okay? If I call, just answer and listen. Be careful." At my parents' house, Claire was sitting in the living room, looking nervous. She'd aged since I'd last seen her. More lines around her eyes, gray showing in her hair. But she looked peaceful in a way she never had during our marriage. "Thomas," she said, standing when I entered. "Thank you for seeing me." "What do you want, Claire?" I wanted to apologize. Properly. Without lawyers or legal pressure, just me, acknowledging what I did to you. You already apologized. At the coffee shop, remember? That wasn't enough. I've been in therapy for 4 years now, working through everything, and I've realized that I never took full responsibility for how much I hurt you. I tried to destroy your reputation, your self-worth, your future. I tried to trap you into raising a child that wasn't yours. I stole from you. I lied about you. And I never fully acknowledged how awful that was. I sat down across from her. Why now? Why is this so important 5 years later? Because I have a daughter. She's 4 now. And I'm teaching her about honesty and integrity and treating people right. But how can I teach her those things when I've never fully owned up to what I did? So this is about your conscience. Partly. But it's also about you deserving a real apology. You were a good husband, Thomas. You worked hard. You were faithful. You tried to make me happy. And I repaid that by being the worst possible version of myself. You deserved better. I did deserve better. And I found it. I'm remarried now with 2 kids. I'm happy. Your apology doesn't change my life, I know. But maybe it changes yours a little bit. Knowing that I know what I did. That I'm not making excuses or blaming you anymore. I was wrong. Completely, totally wrong. We sat in silence for a moment. Then I said, "I forgave you a long time ago, Claire. Not because you deserved it, but because I needed to. Holding on to anger was poisoning me, so I let it go. That's more grace than I showed you." "Yeah, it is. But that's the difference between us. I learned from my pain. I grew. I became better." "What did you become?" She smiled sadly. "I became humbler, more honest. A better mother than I would have been if none of this had happened. So in a weird way, my worst actions led to my best growth. That's good. For your daughter's sake. Are you happy? Really happy?" "I really am. My wife is amazing. My kids are perfect. My life is everything I wanted it to be." "Then I'm glad. Truly. You deserve all the happiness, Thomas." After she left, I sat with my parents for a while, processing. "That took courage," my father said. "For her to come here and face you like that." "It did. But it doesn't change anything. She's still the person who tried to destroy me. Being sorry doesn't erase that." "No," my mother agreed. "But maybe it closes the chapter. Maybe now you can really move on, knowing she understands what she did. Maybe. Or maybe I'd already moved on, and this was just Claire catching up." Either way, I drove home feeling light, free, like the last ghost of my first marriage had finally been laid to rest. That evening, I told Caroline about the encounter. "How do you feel?" she asked. Indifferent mostly. Her apology was nice, but I didn't need it. I'd already healed. That's what matters. That you healed on your own terms, not waiting for her to give you permission. Exactly. Life continued its forward motion. James thrived in school. Rose was a whirlwind of energy and curiosity. Caroline and I fell more in love with each passing year, building a partnership based on trust and honesty and genuine affection. We fought sometimes, all couples do. But we fought fair, without cruelty, without using love as a weapon. We apologized when we were wrong. We forgave easily. We chose each other every day, consciously and deliberately. This is what marriage should be, I told Caroline one night, watching her read bedtime stories to the kids. What do you mean? Easy. Not perfect, but easy. I never have to guess what you're thinking or feeling. I never have to worry about hidden agendas or secret betrayals. It's just us, being honest with each other. That's all I ever wanted too. Simplicity, truth, a partner who shows up. I'll always show up for you. I promise. I know you will. That's why I married you. 7 years after my divorce, I got a letter from Judge Patricia Sutton, the judge who'd presided over my case. She'd retired from the bench and was now working with a nonprofit that helped men navigate family court. I remember your case, she wrote. It was one of the more clear-cut examples of manipulation and fraud I've seen. But what impressed me wasn't the evidence. It was you. Your composure, your integrity, your refusal to be drawn into your ex-wife's drama. You conducted yourself with dignity, and that's rare in family court. She went on to say that the nonprofit was looking for volunteers who could mentor men going through difficult divorces. Would I be interested? I showed the letter to Caroline. What do you think? I think you'd be great at it. You've already been doing it informally for years. This would just make it official. So I started volunteering. 2 evenings a month, I met with men who were going through divorces, custody battles, paternity disputes. I listened to their stories, offered advice, reminded them that survival was possible. Some of their situations were worse than mine had been. Some were better, but they all shared the same core pain: betrayal by someone they'd trusted, manipulation by someone who was supposed to love them. The system isn't set up for us, one man told me bitterly. The courts always favor women. I'm going to lose my kids no matter what I do. That's not true, I said. The courts favor whoever has the best documentation and tells the most credible story. Gender matters less than you think. But you have to be smart, you have to be patient, and you have to keep your emotions in check. How? How do I not lose my mind when she's lying about me to everyone who'll listen? Because losing your mind is what she wants. She wants you to look unstable, emotional, unfit. Don't give her that. Stay calm. Document everything. Let the evidence speak for itself. Over the years, I helped dozens of men navigate their divorces. Some thanked me afterward, told me I'd changed their lives. Others disappeared, probably too hurt or angry to continue engaging with anything related to their failed marriages. But I kept showing up because someone had needed to hear my story, and I wanted to be that person for others. 10 years after my divorce from Claire, my life looked nothing like I'd imagined it would. I was chief of cardiology at my hospital. Caroline and I had been married for 8 years. Our kids were thriving. James in elementary school, Rose in preschool. We'd bought a house in a good neighborhood, the kind with block parties and families who looked out for each other. I was happy. Genuinely, deeply happy in a way I'd never been with Claire. One Saturday morning, I was making pancakes while Caroline got the kids ready for their Saturday activities when my phone rang. Unknown number. Dr. Brennan? Speaking. This is Kyle Anderson. I froze, spatula in midair. Kyle, it's been a while. 10 years. I know. I'm sorry to call out of the blue, but I need to talk to you about something important. Can you meet me for coffee? Why? It's about Lily, my daughter. Our daughter, Claire and mine. Is she okay? She's fine, physically. But there's something going on, and I think you might be able to help. Please, Thomas. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a neutral coffee shop that afternoon. Kyle looked older. We all did, I supposed. but he looked worn down in a way that spoke of hard years. "Thank you for meeting me," he said. "I know you have every right to tell me to go to hell. I'm listening. What's going on with Lily? She's 10 now, smart, curious, asking a lot of questions about her family history. And recently, she asked about you." "About me? Why?" "Because her grandmother, Claire's mother, Diane, told her that Claire used to be married to a doctor named Thomas. Lily wanted to know who you were, why Claire and you divorced, why she's never met you." "What did you tell her?" "The truth, mostly. That you and Claire were married, that things didn't work out, that you're not her father, but Lily's persistent. She's been Googling you, found out about your work at the hospital, your awards, your family, and now she wants to meet you." I sat back, stunned. "Kyle, I can't do that. I have my own family, my own kids. I can't just insert myself into your daughter's life." "I know. I told her that, but she's fixated on it. Says she wants to understand her mother's past, wants to know the person who was important to Claire before she and I were together. I think she's trying to understand why her mother is the way she is." "What do you mean?" Kyle looked uncomfortable. "Claire struggles. She's a good mom, mostly, but she has her demons. Depression, anxiety, self-destructive patterns. Lily sees all that, and she's trying to make sense of it. I think she believes meeting you will give her answers. I can't give her answers. I divorced her mother before she was born. I don't know Claire anymore. But you knew her when she was different, when she had potential to be better. Lily needs to know that her mother was capable of goodness once, even if she lost her way. I thought about it for a long time. I need to talk to my wife about this. It's not just my decision." "Fair enough. Thank you for considering it." At home, I explained the situation to Caroline. She listened without interrupting, her face thoughtful. "What do you want to do?" she asked when I finished. "I don't know. Part of me wants to help this kid. She didn't ask to be born into this mess. But another part of me wants to keep that chapter of my life closed. Would meeting her open old wounds? I don't think so. I'm over Claire. Over all of it. But it feels strange to meet the child that caused so much chaos, even though none of it was her fault. Maybe that's why you should do it. To show her that she's not responsible for her parents' mistakes, that she's her own person. You wouldn't mind? Thomas, I trust you. If you think this is the right thing to do, I support you." I called Kyle back that night. "I'll meet with Lily, once, in a public place with you present. I'll answer her questions as honestly as I can, but that's it. I'm not becoming a mentor or a family friend. I'm just giving her the closure she's looking for. Thank you, really, thank you." We met 2 weeks later at a park. Lily was a small, serious girl with Claire's eyes and Kyle's dark hair. She shook my hand formally when Kyle introduced us. "Thank you for meeting me, Dr. Brennan," she said. "You can call me Thomas, and you're welcome." We sat at a picnic table. Kyle stayed nearby but gave us space. "Why did you want to meet me?" I asked. "Because my mom talks about you sometimes. When she's sad or having a bad day. She says you were the best thing that ever happened to her, and she ruined it. I wanted to know who you were. If you were really as good as she says." "I'm just a person, Lily. Not particularly good or bad. Just someone who tried to have a marriage and it didn't work out. Why didn't it work out?" I chose my words carefully. "Your mom and I wanted different things. We weren't honest with each other about what we needed, and eventually, those differences became too big to ignore. Mom says she lied to you. Is that true?" "Yes. She made some choices that hurt me very much. But that was between your mom and me. It has nothing to do with you. But I'm part of why you got divorced, aren't I? Because I'm not your daughter. Smart kid. Too smart for her own good, maybe. The divorce would have happened whether you existed or not," I said firmly. "The problems between your mom and me started long before you were conceived. You're not responsible for your parents' mistakes. Do you hate my mom? No, I don't hate her. I'm not angry at her anymore. I've moved on with my life. I hope she's doing the same. She's not. She's sad a lot. Takes medication, sees a therapist. I think she wishes things had been different. I'm sorry she's struggling. But Lily, you can't fix your mom. That's not your job. Your job is to be a kid, to focus on school and friends and growing up healthy. That's what my dad says too. But it's hard to be a kid when your mom is so sad. We talked for another hour. Lily asked about my work, my family, my life now. I answered honestly but carefully, not oversharing, but not dismissing her either. You seem happy, she said finally. Really happy. I'm glad. Thank you. I am happy. And I hope you will be too, Lily. You seem like a smart, thoughtful person. Don't let your mom's struggles define your life. I'll try. As I was leaving, Lily said, "Can I ask you one more thing?" "Sure. Do you think my mom can still be happy someday? Even after everything that happened?" I thought about Claire showing up at my parents' house, apologizing, about the regret in her voice, the acknowledgement of her mistakes. "Yes," I said, "I think she can. If she keeps working on herself, keeps trying to be better, happiness is possible for everyone, even your mom." Lily smiled for the first time. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Driving home, I felt emotionally drained but also peaceful. I'd closed a loop I hadn't even known was open. Lily got her answers. I got closure on a part of my past I'd thought was already closed. That night, I told Caroline about the conversation. "You were kind to her," Caroline said. "That matters. She's just a kid trying to make sense of complicated adult problems. She deserved kindness." "You're a good person, Thomas Brennan." "I try to be. That's all any of us can do." A few weeks later, I got a card in the mail. Inside was a drawing of a heart with the words, "Thank you for helping me understand," written in careful child handwriting. It was signed, Lily. I put it in my office, a reminder that sometimes the hardest parts of our past can teach us the most important lessons. That closure comes in unexpected ways. That healing isn't just about us, it's about everyone affected by our pain. Lily's visit marked a turning point for me. It was the moment when I realized I'd truly moved beyond my divorce. Not just intellectually, but emotionally. The past was truly past. I could talk about it without pain, could meet the child of my ex-wife without resentment, could acknowledge that Claire had been both my greatest teacher and my biggest mistake, and that both things could be true simultaneously. Life continued. James developed an interest in science. Rose showed artistic talent. Caroline got promoted at work. We took family vacations, celebrated holidays, created traditions. We were happy. Not perfect. No family is perfect, but happy in all the ways that mattered. And sometimes, late at night, I'd think back to that conference room 10 years ago. To the moment when Claire had told everyone I'd be a terrible father. To the careful planning, the documentation, the strategic revenge that had protected me. I'd been so angry then, so focused on justice, on vindication, on proving that I was the victim and she was the villain. But now I could see it differently. Yes, Claire had been wrong. Yes, she'd hurt me terribly. But her betrayal had also been a gift, in a strange way. It had forced me to become stronger, more self-aware, more careful about who I trusted and why. It had taught me what real love looked like. Not the passionate, consuming love I'd had with Claire, but the steady, honest love I had with Caroline. The kind of love that didn't require performance or pretending. The kind that could survive conflict because it was built on truth. Claire had tried to destroy me. Instead, she'd helped me become the best version of myself. That was worth something. Maybe not forgiveness in the traditional sense, but acknowledgement. Recognition that even our worst experiences can teach us essential lessons. I was grateful for my life now, for Caroline, for my kids, for my work, for the peace I'd found. But I was also grateful, in a complicated way, for everything that had come before, for the pain that had taught me strength, for the betrayal that had taught me wisdom, for the anger that had taught me how to channel difficult emotions into productive action. I was grateful for the journey, even the hard parts, especially the hard parts, because they'd made me who I was now, and I liked who I was now. 15 years after my divorce, I was invited to write a book about my experience. A publisher had heard about my volunteer work helping men navigate difficult divorces and thought my story could help a wider audience. I hesitated. Did I really want to put my most painful experiences into print, to share them with strangers? But Caroline encouraged me. Your story has already helped so many people. A book could reach thousands more, so I wrote it. Not just about the betrayal and the divorce, but about the healing afterward. About learning to trust again, to love again, to build a life based on truth instead of lies. I called it After the Fall, Rebuilding After Betrayal. The book came out the month James graduated high school. It was surreal to be doing book signings and interviews while also helping my son prepare for college. "Dad, you're kind of famous now," James said, showing me reviews of the book online. "Not famous, just sharing my story. It's a good story. Scary, but good. Makes me want to be careful about who I trust. That's the lesson. Be careful. But also, don't let fear keep you from connecting with people. Just pay attention to red flags." The book did well. Better than I'd expected. I got emails from people all over the country. Men and women who'd been through similar experiences, who saw themselves in my story. One email stood out. It was from a woman named Patricia, who'd been the mediator during my divorce with Claire. "I hope you don't mind me reaching out," she wrote. "I just finished your book and wanted you to know that I've thought about your case often over the years. It was one of the most clear-cut examples of manipulation I've witnessed. I'm glad you found healing and happiness. You deserved it." I wrote back, thanking her. "You were kind during a difficult time. That mattered." Her response came quickly. "I believed Claire at first, you know. She was very convincing, but you stayed calm, didn't fight back, didn't give her ammunition. That told me more about your character than anything she said about you. That conversation made me think about the importance of composure during crisis. If I'd lost my temper, if I'd lashed out, if I'd let Claire's provocations make me unstable, everything could have been different. My calm hadn't been cowardice. It had been strategy. Strength. The decision to let the truth speak for itself instead of trying to shout over lies. That was worth teaching others." Rose graduated high school 3 years after James. She decided to study psychology, partly, she admitted, because she wanted to understand what made people hurt each other the way her dad had been hurt. "I want to help people before they make destructive choices," she said. "Prevention instead of just damage control." "That's noble. I'm proud of you." "Dad, can I ask you something? About Claire?" "We rarely talked about my first wife. It felt like ancient history." "What about her? Do you ever wonder what your life would have been like if she hadn't betrayed you? If you'd stayed married?" "Sometimes. But I don't think we would have lasted anyway. The problems were deeper than the affair. But what if she'd been honest? What if you'd gone to counseling, worked through things? Then maybe we would have had a different ending. Or maybe we would have just delayed the inevitable. I can't say for sure. But Rose, I can say this. I'm grateful for how things turned out. Because if I'd stayed with Claire, I wouldn't have married your mother, wouldn't have you and James, wouldn't have this life. So, even though the betrayal hurt, it led me to where I was supposed to be. That's a very mature way to look at it. It took me a long time to get here. The first few years, I was just angry. But eventually, I realized that anger was holding me back. So I let it go. How? How do you let go of something that hurt that much? You decide that your future is more important than your past, that who you're becoming matters more than what was done to you. And then you make choices based on that decision over and over until one day you realize the past doesn't hurt anymore. Rose thought about that for a long time. I hope I never have to go through what you did, but if I do, I hope I handle it half as well. You will. You're stronger than I was at your age. You've learned from watching, which is easier than learning from experience. Claire died when I was 52. Heart attack, sudden and unexpected. Kyle called to tell me. I thought you should know, he said. I know it's been a long time, but you were part of her life once. How's Lily handling it? As well as can be expected. She's 28 now, married, has a kid of her own. But losing your mother is hard no matter how old you are. Give her my condolences. I will. And Thomas, thank you for meeting with her all those years ago. It helped her understand her mother better, made their relationship easier. I'm glad. After we hung up, I told Caroline. She held my hand. Are you okay? She asked. Yeah, I feel sad for Lily, but I'm okay. Claire stopped being part of my life a long time ago. Do you want to go to the funeral? No, that would be strange. I'm just a person from her past, not family. But I sent flowers, with a card that said simply, "May you find the peace in death that eluded you in life." Thomas. It wasn't meant to be cruel, just honest. Claire had struggled her whole life with demons I'd never fully understood. Maybe now she was free of them. My 50s were good years. Caroline and I grew older together, more comfortable in each other's presence than ever. We traveled, spent time with our grandchildren. James had 2 kids, Rose 1, pursued hobbies. I retired from full-time practice at 55, but continued volunteering with the non-profit that helped men navigate family court. Some of the men I worked with were younger than James. It made me feel old and also grateful. Grateful that my hard-won wisdom could spare them some pain. One evening, Caroline and I were sitting on our back porch, watching the sunset. Do you have any regrets? She asked. About what? About anything. Your life, your choices, the paths you didn't take. I thought about it seriously. No major regrets. I wish I'd recognized the problems in my first marriage sooner. Would have saved everyone some pain, but I don't regret the divorce itself. Don't regret how I handled it. Don't regret anything that came after. Not even the hard parts. Especially not the hard parts. They made me who I am. Who are you, Thomas Brennan? I'm a man who learned the hard way that love requires truth, that trust must be earned, that you can survive betrayal if you refuse to let it define you. I'm a man who chose healing over bitterness, strength over victimhood, hope over cynicism. I'm a man who got a second chance and made the most of it. Caroline smiled. That's exactly who I married. And who did you marry? The strongest person I know, not because you never broke, but because you put yourself back together better than before. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything that had happened over the past 30 years. The marriage to Claire, the betrayal, the careful planning, the divorce, meeting Caroline, building a family, helping others, writing the book. All of it interconnected, all of it leading to this moment. I'd had a good life. Not perfect, no life is perfect, but good in all the ways that mattered. And I'd learned something essential. Revenge wasn't what I'd thought it was. Real revenge wasn't about destroying someone who hurt you. It was about becoming so happy, so successful, so complete, that their betrayal became irrelevant. Claire had tried to make me believe I was selfish, incapable, unworthy. My revenge was proving, not to her, but to myself, that I was none of those things. My revenge was building a life so full of love and purpose that her lies couldn't touch it. My revenge was being happy, and I was happy, genuinely, deeply, unshakably happy. That was the best revenge of all. The next morning I woke to find Caroline already up making coffee. You were restless last night, she said. Everything okay? Everything's perfect. I was just thinking about how lucky I am. How grateful. Grateful for what? For you. For our kids. For the life we built together. For all of it. She kissed me. I'm grateful too. For the man you are. For the man you became. We became, I corrected. I didn't do any of this alone. No, she agreed. We did it together. That's what partnership means. Partnership. That's what I'd been missing with Claire. Real partnership, where both people showed up fully, honestly, without games or manipulation. I'd found it with Caroline, and that made every moment of pain I'd experienced to get here worthwhile. Years later, when I was 68 and preparing to fully retire, I gave one final speech to the nonprofit's volunteers. When I started this work 20 years ago, I said, I was still healing from my own divorce, still angry, still hurt, still trying to make sense of what had happened to me. And over the years, helping other men navigate their own painful divorces helped me finish my own healing. What I learned is this: betrayal teaches us who we are. Not who we think we are, not who we want to be, but who we actually are when everything is stripped away. Some people discover they're victims. They let the betrayal define them forever. Others discover they're survivors. They endure, but they never quite heal. But some people, the lucky ones, discover they're warriors. They use the pain as fuel. They become stronger, wiser, more complete. I hope I helped some of you become warriors instead of victims, and I hope you pass that lesson on to the next person who needs it. The applause was deafening. Men I'd helped over the years, some now remarried, some still healing, stood and cheered. I felt overwhelmed by gratitude. This was my legacy. Not the medical papers I'd published or the patients I'd saved. This, helping men find their strength in their darkest moments. Showing them that survival was possible, that happiness after betrayal was real. Driving home that night, I thought about the conference room where Claire had said I'd be a terrible father. I thought about how devastated I'd been, how alone I'd felt, how close I'd come to believing her lies. And I thought about how wrong she'd been. I wasn't a terrible father. I'd raised two incredible kids who were now raising incredible kids of their own. I'd been present, involved, honest with them about my past and my mistakes. I wasn't selfish. I'd spent decades helping others, volunteering my time, sharing my story to spare others pain. I wasn't incapable of putting others first. I'd built a marriage based on mutual support and sacrifice. I'd been there for Caroline through her own difficult times, just as she'd been there for me. Claire had been wrong about everything, and her being wrong had been the best thing that ever happened to me, because it forced me to prove to myself who I really was, and who I really was turned out to be pretty damn good. That night, I lay in bed next to Caroline, listening to her breathe, feeling grateful for the ordinary miracle of a life well lived. "Thank you," I whispered. "For what?" she murmured, half asleep. "For choosing me, for believing in me, for building this life with me. Thank you for choosing me back, for every day of the past 30 years, 30 years, 3 decades of partnership, honesty, love. That was what revenge looked like. Not destruction, but creation. Building something so beautiful that the past couldn't touch it." I closed my eyes and slept deeply, dreamlessly, peacefully. A man at rest. A man who'd faced his worst and come out stronger. A man who'd learned that the best response to betrayal wasn't matching cruelty with cruelty, but meeting it with dignity, strategy, and the determination to build something better. I'd won, not because Claire had lost, but because I'd refused to stay down, and that made all the difference. I turned 75 on a Tuesday in late September. Caroline threw me a surprise party, though at my age, surprise meant I'd successfully pretended not to know about it for her sake. Our backyard was full of people, our children and grandchildren, old colleagues from the hospital, friends we'd made over decades of marriage, and a handful of men I'd mentored through their divorces who'd become friends afterward. James stood up to make a toast, his own gray hair reminding me how much time had passed. "Dad," he said, raising his glass, "you taught us that strength isn't about never falling down. It's about how you get back up. You showed us that integrity matters more than winning, that truth matters more than comfort, and that the best revenge is a life well lived. Happy birthday." Everyone cheered. I felt Carolyn's hand slip into mine, her fingers intertwining with mine the way they had for 35 years. Later, as the party wound down and guests began leaving, a young man approached me. He looked to be in his early 30s, nervous but determined. "Dr. Brennan? I'm sorry to bother you at your party, but I wanted to thank you. My name is Nathan Foster. You talked to me on the phone about 15 years ago when I was going through my divorce. I remembered him. The man Warren Hayes had connected me with, one of the first people I'd mentored. Nathan, of course. How are you? I'm great. Remarried, 2 kids, happy. But I wanted you to know that conversation we had, it saved me. I was drowning, questioning everything about myself. You told me to trust my evidence, to protect myself, to remember that surviving was possible. I held on to those words through the whole process. I'm glad I could help. It was more than help. You gave me hope when I had none, and I've tried to pay it forward. I volunteer now, doing what you did for me, helping other men see that they can survive betrayal. After he left, Caroline looked at me with tears in her eyes. That's your real legacy, you know. Not the medical work, though that mattered too. But this, helping people find their strength when they thought it was gone. That's what will outlive you. I hope so. I hope when I'm gone, someone remembers that Thomas Brennan tried to make things a little better for people who were suffering. They'll remember. Trust me, they'll remember. That evening, after everyone had gone home and Caroline and I were cleaning up, I found myself thinking about Claire. Not with pain or anger. Those emotions had faded decades ago, but with a kind of distant curiosity about the paths not taken. If she hadn't betrayed me, where would I be now? Still married to her, probably miserable, maybe divorced anyway, but without the catalyst that had forced me to become stronger. I wouldn't have met Caroline. Wouldn't have the children and grandchildren I had. Wouldn't have done the volunteer work that had given so many men hope. Claire's betrayal had been the worst thing and the best thing that ever happened to me. The worst in the moment, the best in retrospect. I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd struggled until her death at 50, that she'd never quite found peace or happiness. Part of me felt sad about that, not because I still cared about her romantically, but because it was a wasted life. She'd had potential to be better, to grow, to heal. She'd just never quite managed it. But her daughter Lily had thrived. I'd kept loose track over the years. She'd become a therapist, specializing in helping children of divorce. She'd turned her own pain into purpose, just like I had. That felt like something good coming from something bad. "What are you thinking about?" Caroline asked, coming up behind me and wrapping her arms around my waist. "Just reflecting. 75 years is a long time. A lot of memories to sort through. Any regrets?" "Not a single one." "Well, maybe I wish I'd learned to play piano like I always talked about doing." She laughed. "It's not too late. We have time. Time. That was the gift, wasn't it? All these years I'd been given to build something meaningful from the ruins of my first marriage. Time to heal, to grow, to love again, to help others. Not everyone got that gift. Some people stayed trapped in their pain, reliving their betrayals over and over. I'd been lucky, or maybe disciplined enough to choose differently. The next morning I did something I hadn't done in years. I pulled out the old box from my first marriage, the one containing the divorce papers, the evidence I'd gathered, the recordings from mediation sessions. I'd kept it all, not because I needed it anymore, but because it was part of my history. I went through it slowly, remembering. The pain was gone, replaced by a kind of archaeological interest. This had happened to me, but it felt like it had happened to someone else. A younger, more naive Thomas, who'd learned hard lessons about trust and self-protection. At the bottom of the box, I found something I'd forgotten about. The letter I'd written to Claire's unborn baby, explaining everything that had happened. I'd never sent it. Didn't need to once the paternity test proved the child wasn't mine. I read it now, this letter to a child who was now a grown woman with her own child. The tone was so earnest, so determined to explain and justify. I smiled at my younger self's need to be understood, to have the record show he'd been wronged. I didn't need that anymore. The record spoke for itself in the life I'd built. I took the entire box outside to our fire pit. Caroline came out, saw what I was doing, and sat down beside me. "Burning bridges?" she asked. "More like acknowledging they've already burned. I don't need this anymore. Don't need to remember the exact details of what happened or prove anything to anyone." I lit the papers on fire and watched them burn. The divorce petition, the evidence files, the recordings. The bitter email exchanges. All of it turning to ash and smoke. "How does it feel?" Caroline asked. "Freeing. Like I'm finally letting go of the last piece of weight I've been carrying." We sat in silence, watching the flames consume my past. When it was done, when nothing remained but ashes, Caroline said, "You know what this means, don't you?" "What?" "You've completely healed. Not just intellectually or emotionally, but in every way that matters. You don't need revenge anymore. Don't need vindication. Don't need anything from that chapter of your life." She was right. I'd spent so many years defining myself in relation to what Claire had done to me. First as victim, then as survivor, then as someone who'd overcome. But now I was just Thomas. A man who'd lived a good life, made good choices after some bad ones, loved and been loved in return. The divorce wasn't my defining story anymore. It was just one chapter in a much longer book. That afternoon, Rose called. She was now a successful therapist with her own practice, specializing in helping people recover from betrayal and rebuild their lives. "Dad, I'm writing a paper about resilience after trauma. Can I interview you? What do you want to know? What made the difference for you between staying stuck in your pain and actually healing?" I thought about it carefully. 3 things. First, I chose to believe in my own worth even when someone I loved was trying to convince me I was worthless. Second, I focused on building something new instead of just destroying what hurt me. And third, I let myself be helped. I went to therapy, I talked to my parents, I eventually let your mother love me even though I was terrified of being hurt again. So it wasn't just strength, it was also vulnerability. Exactly. Real strength isn't about being invulnerable. It's about being hurt and choosing to trust again anyway. That's beautiful, Dad. Can I quote you in my paper? Only if you promise to send me a copy when it's published. After we hung up, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. My pain hadn't been wasted. It had taught me lessons that I'd passed on to my children, who were now passing them on to their clients and their own children. That was legacy. Not just surviving, but transforming your suffering into wisdom that helped others. That evening, Caroline and I took a walk through our neighborhood. We'd lived in this house for 25 years, watched families move in and out, seen children grow up and move away. It was familiar and comfortable, like everything about our life together. "Do you ever think about what you'd tell your younger self?" Caroline asked. The Thomas sitting in that conference room, listening to Claire call him a terrible father? All the time. I'd tell him that she's wrong, that he's about to go through hell, but on the other side is everything he ever wanted. That the pain is temporary, but the growth is permanent. That he should trust himself, document everything, and never let anyone make him doubt his own reality. Would he believe you? Probably not. Some lessons you have to learn yourself. But maybe hearing it would make the journey a little easier. We walked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Caroline said, "I have a confession." "What's that?" "I read your book again last week. The one about recovering from betrayal. And I cried, even though I've read it a dozen times and know how it ends. Why? Because I'm so proud of who you are. Of the man who could go through something so painful and come out better instead of bitter. Of the man who turned his worst experience into something that helps others. I'm just really, really proud to be your wife." I stopped walking and pulled her into a hug. "I couldn't have done any of it without you. You taught me what real love looks like, what partnership actually means. Everything good in my life started when I met you. That's not true. You were already good. I just gave you a safe place to heal. Then I'm grateful for that safe place, for 35 years of it." We walked home as the sun set, painting the sky orange and pink. Inside, our house was quiet, full of photos documenting a life well lived. Children at various ages. Graduations and weddings. Grandchildren taking their first steps. Vacations and holidays and ordinary moments that had become extraordinary through accumulation. This was what winning looked like. Not the moment in court when the judge had sided with me, not the money I'd recovered or the vindication I'd received, but this, Decades of peace, love, purpose. A life built on truth instead of lies. I thought about Claire one last time, not with anger or satisfaction, but with a kind of distant gratitude. She'd hurt me terribly, but she'd also inadvertently given me the greatest gift. She'd forced me to become the person I was always meant to be. Without her betrayal, I would have stayed comfortable, never pushing myself to grow or question or become stronger. I would have been fine, a decent doctor, a decent person, living a decent life. But because of what she'd done, I'd become more than fine. I'd become someone who knew his worth, who chose truth over comfort, who helped others find their strength. That was worth all the pain I'd endured to get here. "What are you smiling about?" Caroline asked, catching my expression. "Just thinking about how everything worked out, how all the pain led to all of this." I gestured around our home, our life. "Do you believe in fate? That everything happens for a reason?" "No. I believe we make meaning from what happens to us." Claire didn't betray me so I could learn and grow. She betrayed me because she made selfish choices. But I chose to learn and grow anyway. That's what makes the difference. So we're not victims of our circumstances. We're architects of our responses. Exactly. That night, I slept deeply and peacefully. No nightmares about the past, no anxiety about the future. Just deep, restful sleep. In the morning, I woke to find Caroline already up, making coffee as she had for 35 years. I came up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. "Good morning," I said. "Good morning. Sleep well?" "Better than I have in weeks." I think burning those papers yesterday really did something, like I finally closed that chapter completely. "Good. You deserve to be free of it. I've been free of it for years." Yesterday was just making it official. We had breakfast together, reading the paper, discussing our plans for the day. Ordinary, mundane, perfect. This was my revenge. This ordinary morning, this peaceful life, this woman who loved me honestly and completely. Not the moment when Claire's lies were exposed. Not the court victory or the financial settlement. This quiet happiness that Claire had tried to destroy and instead had inadvertently helped me find. She'd said I'd never be a good father. The judge had disagreed. My children disagreed. My grandchildren disagreed. And most importantly, I disagreed. She'd said I was selfish and incapable of putting others first. The hundreds of men I'd helped through their divorces disagreed. My patients disagreed. My family disagreed. She'd tried to define me, to diminish me, to destroy my sense of self-worth. And she'd failed. I'd defined myself instead. Built a life so full of meaning and love that her lies became irrelevant. That was justice. That was victory. That was revenge. And it was enough. More than enough. It was everything.